Hello again. Welcome to Average Tabletop Gamers. I'm Ben.
I'm Sven.
And today we are going to be doing our little review of Rumbleslam. If you watched our previous video, we on our Get Playing series, you'll find out if Rumbleslam was a stone cold stunner or we rumble slammed it.
Ah. Okay. Let's move swiftly on from those terrible puns. So Rumbleslam, we gave a brief breakdown of what it is in our Get Playing video, but if you haven't watched that yet, why not?
Here's a link, or there's a link. There's a link somewhere to it, somewhere around here.
So Rumbleslam is a fantasy-themed wrestling game. Royal Rumble rules, so the objective is to throw your opponents out of the ring. But of course, we've got all the other moves in there. We can jump off turnbuckles, we can bounce them off ropes, we can grapple them, we can brawl them, etc.
Yeah.
We can get the crowd involved.
Yeah.
So, first impressions of the game. We've played a few games of this now.
Yeah, we have. Collectively, there's a small group of us that have played a few games.
So first impressions for me. So I backed this game on Kickstarter when I forget even when that was. It was a good while ago when it was first launched on Kickstarter. And just the concept artwork that
Was it back in the Attitude Era?
Wrestling themes.
Okay.
And so I backed this back on Kickstarter, and it was just the concept and the artwork that drew me in. I've always been a fan of games like Blood Bowl, so I thought a game that appeals to that sensibility, that kind of theming, where we've got orcs, goblins, rat men, undead,
snakes,
gorgon creatures, Amazonians, tree men, but all fighting out in the wrestling ring. So it really kind of floated my boat at that point. And I backed that, and I backed it to the hilt. And the miniatures themselves are glorious. I think the sculpts that they've done are brilliant. They are resin cast models. They are all sculpted really well. And they really do give you a good idea of the game itself, of the wrestling theme. There are variations as well, so for each of the teams, you've got variants of the different models. So you've got grapplers and brawlers, and the models are at the moment, so you've got one pose for each of them, whether it be a halfling brawler is different from a halfling grappler, etc. The game itself, the quality of some of the items is really nice. So the playing surface that you get with it, the neoprene mat, I really like this. I really like the MDF add-ons that they've got available as expansion pieces. And I say the card artwork and the cards themselves are really nice, that you do get for the players to track your player stats. I bet I couldn't do that again.
Even if you try throwing them away.
So first impressions wise, I was blown away by the box contents. The dice, now I know the dice were a little bit of a concern, and these are printed dice, and now we haven't played enough games with ours for this to happen, but I know there were issues with some of the early batches of dice of the printed on markings rubbing off them. I say that hasn't happened with ours, but it may just be a matter of time.
Yeah.
I guess it depends if you're playing if you had a games club running and you're playing several games of this a night over a period of weeks, you may find that they're rubbing off. TTCombat do have an expansion set of dice you can buy for like £8, which are etched dice, but they do lose the little fist icons in favour of stars on the etched dice over the printed dice. As I say, that hasn't happened to ours yet. But talking about dice, I really love the concept of this crowd pleasing.
Yep.
So that's a great game mechanic, and I think it really adds to the wrestling theme. The idea that you can use a crowd pleaser move, which will get you bonuses, or that if you try and use the same move over and over and over again, the crowd get bored, and there's a chance that it'll actually negatively impact you.
Yeah.
So that was a lovely mechanic, and again, that was one of the things that when I first read about that mechanic in the Kickstarter material and all the playtest stuff that was produced, I was really looking forward to using.
Yeah. So I mean, as I say, I was kind of a bit more of a newcomer to Rumbleslam when we started looking at it, and again, as Sven said, I was the same as him. I was really impressed with kind of the quality of material produced, the quality of the cards, the artwork, the layout in the rule book is really nice and easy, and the miniatures are a delight. They're really kind of over defined in that slightly comedic way that makes them really nice and easy to paint. You can get an awful lot of definition and distinguish. All the minis are also very, very different from each other. You know, there's a vast amount of variety, an array of poses and the like. You know, even in the same racial figures, for example, you know, the little halflings here, although they do represent different game mechanics, they do have some variety. The superstars are wonderful. The harkening back to current and previous superstars in the wrestling world, and kind of like that little homage as a massive wrestling fan that I am. It's lovely again to kind of get to grips with you know, the Undertaker and the Rock and people like that, and kind of play them as, you know, have them as your game pieces
with enough variation to, of course, avoid any lawsuits and copyright infringement.
Very much so.
But again, you know, like having even just play on like the, you know, the puns, so like Ronnie Salvage as being a dwarf macho man take on kind of characters, amazing. And I say I've got a big box full of the superstar characters because I just couldn't simply choose between the ones that were available on the Kickstarter. And I know that I've got a lot of painting ahead of me, but again, it's that kind of variation that I think is going to have a lot of appeal for this game, and it's going to be one of those great crossover games. So you know, if you're into wrestling but you're not necessarily into tabletop gaming, this is probably the game that'll be your gateway. If you've got a mate who is into tabletop gaming, if they get this, then you'll pick this up because of the wrestling appeal. And I've got mates who've done that with Blood Bowl. They've been into American football and they've never really thought about tabletop gaming. Someone introduced them to Blood Bowl, and all of a sudden they're big into the Games Workshop scene.
Yeah, very much so.
So the first impressions, I mean, say right from the get-go, I was excited to get this game. I was excited to get the game and build and paint the minis. And then we played a few tentative games early on when we first got this. We're like finding out the rules and seeing how it worked, trying different teams out. So we played with the humans and the orcs primarily, and we used the Divas team. Yeah, the Divas team, wasn't it? And again, we've mixed a few of the superstars in and around those games. So the gameplay...
The gameplay is really easy.
Yeah, it's really easy. It's really nice. There's a few odd mechanics in there that seem to be... like they were a good idea to start off with, and then I think something else got added and it took away from that. So like the initiative thing kind of confused us quite a bit. The fact is the initiative card, but yet you do that dice off at the start of a round to work out which
absolutely
to act first, etc. But the gameplay, like I love the gameplay, and again, it's there's a lot of variation, a lot of theming in there, so that you can do the turnbuckle moves, you can climb the turnbuckle, you can do the jumps off the turnbuckle, you can smash players into turnbuckles, you can bounce them off the ropes, and then when they come back, you can hit them. So there's loads of great concepts in there, which represent the wrestling aspect of it. However, that said, the mechanic of the actual aim of the game, throw your opponents out the ring. And this could just be the way we've been playing, but we found after a couple of rounds of, once the novelty of brawling and grappling and doing choke slams and turnbuckle dives and things had worn off, it became a game of just getting the characters with the biggest throw stat.
Yeah.
Just to run around and pitch.
And hoy everyone out.
Pitch people out of the ring. And it kind of moved away from that themed game into... Are you going to get it's a dice roll of are you going to throw them out as to opposed are they going to make their dexterity check?
Yeah. The kind of the thematic of wrestling, and it's one of the things that I was really impressed with and really attracted me to begin with, is kind of lost a little during gameplay, in my opinion. So all the characters have moves and special moves and things like this, but they don't really go into kind of how that looks. And I know that a lot of gaming is a lot of interpretation and kind of putting your own spin on it. But if you're not much of a wrestling fan, something like Clothesline probably wouldn't mean much to you. So maybe something on the cards that's, you know, I mean, this is Ronnie Salvage. In regards to his clothesline, you know, Ronnie springs off the ropes, flies through the air, right arm extended, and, you know, just a little bit of thematic play in there. It doesn't take too much. There's a lot of space on these cards. There's a lot of space unused. You know, the text is quite small. You could easily fit little bits and bobs like that on there. And then when the game kind of loses its appeal and that individuality of different moves and knockouts and things like this, and as I say, it just gets into a case of who can roll the most amount of skulls with the biggest guy to throw somebody the furthest.
Yeah, we've already kind of, after our first few games, started kind of discussing house rules to basically steer the player more towards getting the KOs.
Yeah, towards the wrestling.
Which makes it easy to throw someone out the ring, which is what, you know, that would be the mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think about the Royal Rumbles, with the very few exceptions, there's always a lot of fighting first until someone gets tired and then you put them out. Whereas we found essentially fully healthy wrestlers were just getting picked up and thrown out with relative ease.
Yeah, very much so.
Without actually needing to brawl or grapple them first.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, that could be something the way that we're playing the game.
I mean, it kind of from the way I look at things, I'd love to see much more of a wrestling spin on it. Maybe some mechanic for finishers and pins, maybe submission holds, things like this. And I know it's probably more difficult to do from a rule perspective, but it adds that different style of gameplay. As it is, you start with 10 figures in a 10 by 10 square. 3 rounds in, it's, you know, who can pick who up and get that dice roll against the other person. It does lose that thematic element of wrestling to me, especially at that point.
That being said, I mean, there are loads of bits of gameplay which I really enjoyed. And, you know, if you do want to play the game and really theme it that way, then yeah, you can run around, you can do all your moves, you can go for the KOs, which is really nice. And I think maybe with different superstars and different teams, they'll have their own strengths. And there's probably some combos in there. Like I know with the Divas team, there's lots of combos around using like chaining their crowd pleasers and things to give the boosts. And talking about the boosts and things, that's where one of the main things that we thought we came across, which was tokens.
Yeah.
Oh my lord, so many tokens. So
fiddly. Just so many of them. If so many of them are red, and I know they're all plastic, they're all acrylic, laser cut acrylic, but they're all red, apart from the ones that aren't. But most of them are red, and you
need a key in the book.
Yeah,
what all the different tokens are.
Yeah,
when a lot of these could have been represented with
anything else,
tracker on the card or something like that.
Yeah, anything like that. There are other games out there that use tracker facilities. For those of you who play Zombicide, for example, they have an excellent tracker that keeps, shows your experience and changes and things like this in the way the character's working at a time. Something like that would be a really nice add-on or feature. because when you've got one of these cards, for example, you know, again, one is salvage here, and he's got something on there showing that he's got an increase in APs, then he's got some damage, then he's suffering from a KO,
and your crowd pleaser.
and he's a crowd pleaser's worked, and all this, and then you can't actually read what's on the card underneath.
Especially when you need both sides of the card, so you're flipping them constantly. So that's something which, again, you know, it just came across that we found we were very quickly losing track of who was doing what because of the tokens on the cards. Either trying to look at the back of the card and read the back of the card text, and you lose sight of your tokens, or you maybe knock them and they go on the next card, etc. I like the idea of the tokens, and I love games with game pieces. Yeah. It got very confusing very quickly over those tokens.
The mechanics that they show are really a fundamental part of the game and the gameplay, and they do make a big difference in the game. But so many of them, and the other, although they're all similar colour, you know, they're all red or they're all blue, it does look like halfway through production they ran out of one colour. Like of some of the colours to match them exactly, so some of the blue ones are different shades of blue. Yeah, which is it's only a minor thing, but that's a really big production value.
Now, as I said, this we are judging this based on this version, which was the Kickstarter. So on the Kickstarter, you know, there was lots of people backed it, so they were really under the gun to fulfill all of these orders in a timely manner. I know there was. You know, there was various issues because I think TTCombat set up all of this from scratch to build all the. You know, they were very much investing in the technology as they were going. It wasn't like they were outsourcing all of the production. They were doing all of this in house, and I think it's the first time they've done this for a game, which is very commendable. And actually, it meant that we got a lot more in the Kickstarter than I think we probably would have done if this had been outsourced. But yeah, that token system, it could be streamlined
massively.
So I know it's something we're going to be looking at again for our own games, is easier ways to keep track of things like AP advances or like increases, decreases.
Even just which figures have activated or gone in a round. There's no way other than memory of tracking that. Which, okay, I know you're only like at most using 5 figures, but it's still, you know, you can lose track. You know, we're getting on a bit.
And again, I mean, you could obviously, you know, you can tap the cards, like turn them around, but again, when they're stacked full of tokens, there's always the chance you're going to, moving your cards around a lot, you're going to lose track of the tokens, you're going to move them off the cards. Overall, I really enjoyed playing the game. We had a good laugh playing the game. You know, it's one of those games where you'll remember the hilarious things that shouldn't have happened.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But at the same point, so we had some gripes over the weight. Yeah. You know, the fact that it was perfectly possible for a halfling, which is a weight 1 wrestler in the game, to pick up a weight 3 stone troll and throw them full distance with no apparent penalties. And again, if we are getting that rule completely wrong, that's something that we couldn't find in the rulebook to clarify that at all anywhere. So again, if you're a Rumbleslam aficionado, give us a shout in the comments. Tell us that we're doing it wrong, because that would improve the gameplay.
Certainly improve. Certainly improve it for the way that we were playing it.
But yeah, it's a game I'm going to come back to. It's a game I do want to continue playing, and I love the models. And that is going to be one of the main draws for me, is building and painting all the different wrestlers and the different superstars and the different teams and getting all that theming in there. But I think after an initial few plays, we are already talking about house ruling quite a few things.
It's again, it's a real beer and pretzels kind of game. I don't know under its current guise if it's got much longevity for me. It's certainly something I'll play if that's what we're doing that week, or we're going to put a night aside and play a few games or something like this. But I'm not necessarily sure it's something that I'm going to invest heavily in. And again, I might be wrong. I might play it with a different group of people. We might have got some of the rules wrong. But the quality, again, the actual quality of what's produced, can't fault. The minis are lovely. I might just get some of the minis just to paint them for the hell of it anyway, because they are so nice. It's a good looking game. It is fun. There are some gripes.
I think, given this is V1.0, this is the first version of the game. I think because the amount of people that are actively playing this now and feeding back to TTCombat, and I say they seem to be very receptive to any feedback. I think this game will go strength to strength in coming versions. If they do an FAQ, if they do a rewrite, if they if they add on the campaign system, I think we'll see this game will be, a major game in years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that's what will happen. Hopefully it'll kind of ignite my interest a little bit more, and ignite my investment a little bit more. So I think kind of we haven't really agreed on a what system we're going to use for.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be a case of will I play it again? Will I enjoy it? Will I invest more money in it? Is the way that I would rate the game. And I would say, at the moment, yes, I would. But it's not going to be at the forefront of my mind when I've got my hobby spends.
Again, I enjoy it. I think it's a nice looking game. I think it's a nice fun game. Don't necessarily feel that when it comes to, my monthly pocket money shopping spree, it's one of those things that I might, put any money into. So yeah, I don't know. It's all right.
But that's what we think. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Is there anything else that you want to know what our humble opinion is of games after we've played it? If so, let us know. Hit us up on the Facebook page. Say it in the comments below. Drop us an email. I say we'll play this. We may even revisit this a little further down the line. As I say, we may, as we play it with more and more people, we may change our opinions. As after all, they are opinions.
Yes.
We reserve the right to change our mind.
Yes.
But in the meantime, go out, get the game yourself, have some games. There are loads of short stores and games clubs up and down the country, around the world, that are playing this now. And as I say, for the relatively inexpensive entry point for gaming, it's a good starter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good investment if you want something to play. It's a bit of fun.
So thank you for watching this one. Again, we've been representing the average tabletop gamers, and we'll see you very soon for our next video. But until then, like, share and subscribe, and hit us up on the Facebook page.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good night, and it's your turn for a bad pun.
So I've got to end this. So,
Ta-da.
bye.